Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are, as always, very proud to be part of the Variety Sports Network. And the show is coming to you from the Frank Walker Law Studios. Cheers, everyone. We hope that you are having a great night wherever you are. And
Scarpino's here.
Things are going well. The show looked like it was maybe going to start a bit like Steelers free agency, which could only be described as a shit show. But it's recovered a bit. We'll get everybody's thoughts on that. We've got, of course, got the DK Metcalf trade, the bringing back of Mason Rudolph, and so much more. Great to see everybody in the chat. Cliff's in, Claude's in. I saw Jen in like 20 minutes at the beginning. Jen, we got to find you a hobby, Jen. If you're in that early, we got to find you something to do. Bozik's in, and I see Melvin. Melvin, welcome back. It's been a couple weeks, buddy. And Yinzer Gear is turning into like our personal promo guy. He's doing a hell of a job. Pushing people to subscribe and in other words, do what he says. And there's Joe and there's Burner. Burner's been in fuego on the socials this week.
Yes.
Oh man. Oh man. I don't know where the father of 30 is. I haven't heard anything, but
it's not 30, it's only 12.
Yeah, this is the Aaron Rodgers hotline. Be gut. I know you have a jersey that we might have to color black in gold. Although he will not be wearing 12 should he come here. Let's just put it that way. Scarps, how you doing tonight?
Good. I'm debating whether or not I should do the whole show doing Aaron Rodgers' voice.
Where did Minshew sign today?
He signed with the Kansas City Chiefs.
With the Chiefs as a backup. Yeah.
Well, and then Kyle Allen went to the Lions.
Oh, did?
God,
that's too bad. I like Kyle.
I did too. I mean, a lot of times you like a backup quarterback to just be this like game manager type guy, and I get that. But Kyle Allen just came in and gave no shits. He would just come in slinging it in the preseason last year. I loved it. Yeah, there was a little duck there.
He was just like Duck. He had balls. He didn't have a great deal of talent, but the kid played fearlessly.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we're gonna get into it. I'm not sure what the hell's Ian's doing. We'll get here. He told us about a half hour ago he was pre-gaming, wasn't he? Maybe he passed out. Shit, who knows?
Maybe he's drunk.
Yeah. Here he comes. Here he comes. Oh boy. You don't have watches there in the South Hills or what?
We were putting the baby to bed and changing the diaper and all that fun stuff. Excuses. I know Scarps is here, so
yeah. Something I haven't done in many moons. In any case, welcome in, and I'm just going to get right to it. Ben, are the Pittsburgh Steelers a better team today than they were when they finished the season?
No, I wouldn't. No, because no. The most important position on the field, I wouldn't say it's improved. It's not worse than it was before, but it's not improved. I guess they're a little improved at wide receiver. I still think they're going to trade Pickens, but that remains to be seen.
Right.
There's a lot of time between now and the draft. Need a running back badly. We need some defensive linemen badly. We need some DBs.
Yeah.
Not as badly as we did when free agency started, but we need some DBs. So no.
Okay. All right.
Hey, they did sign Ben Skoranek back, and the kid
Best signing they've made right there. Dirtbag is back. I'm thrilled.
Back. The kid they signed from the Jets, the slot corner,
Eccles.
Yeah, he's also a good gunner. So I don't see James Pierre coming back. Eccles is not a great slot corner in my estimation, but they apparently think they can make him one. I don't know. Slot corner's got to be able to tackle. So
Yeah, what we'll do is once I get some introductory thoughts here from Ian and Scarps, we'll go through all the moves one by one. Obviously, some are going to take longer than others, but
getting around to talking about Mr. Rodgers.
Well, I think
I don't mean the cool one.
probably
I mean the dickhead who's down someplace on an ayahuasca trip right now.
more or what do they call it? A dark retreat beach or something? I don't know.
A darkness retreat.
Yeah, Scarps, do you think this team is maybe not better, but on the way to being better? You can call me out.
Say something about Mason. Go ahead. Say it.
Relax. No, and the reason I say that is because I think this team has lost a lot of starters from last year. And I'm not saying that those starters are like irreplaceable.
We're good.
But they bring in the DK Metcalf, that's a big move. But like Darius Slay, and I'm sure we'll get into this. Darius Slay is old, man, and I'm not trying to be rude because like seems like a nice guy, he could play, but like and the Eichels kid, is it Eichels? Eccles, Jack Eichel. Sorry, a little NHL on our NFL podcast. And I don't know. I've been underwhelmed.
Okay.
And for those be like, oh, free agency just started. Bullshit. You could literally agree to a deal with a guy on Monday, and those deals, you can't tell me those deals aren't already in place a day or two before. Like, it's just the way it is. But again, they don't have, and we've been like, just because you trade for DK Metcalf doesn't mean that makes you better when you don't have a guy throwing the ball.
Right.
We'll talk about Mason here in a little bit, but like, boy, do they look like they got caught with their dick in their hands. This quarterback situation. And, no, I don't think that the long-term answer was available, but, I don't think he's that great either, but I'll tell you what, I'd feel a whole lot better right now if Justin Fields was on my roster still, despite him
I don't know
not.
if I would.
Okay, that's fine.
That's preliminary. Let him finish here. Yeah,
but I think that at worst, the guy has enough athletic ability to at least keep the defense honest. Yeah. And Tomlin always preaches quarterback mobility. Well, let me tell you this right now. Mason Rudolph is not mobile.
Nope.
Skylar Thompson, last time I checked, he didn't win Olympic gold in the 100-meter. And then they're looking to sign a guy who's 41 years old. And unless he ascends to another plane to get better hips and knees, I don't know where that quarterback ability is coming from. So, okay, I'll say this. I don't think they're better or worse than they were at the end of the season, but I'm leaning more worse.
Okay. Ian, your preliminary thoughts about the early stages of Steelers free agency, which includes trade, of course.
Yes, as my name references here, that this would be a great this would be a great team if we were playing Madden 2019 and all these players were at their 2019 skill levels. 2019 Darius Slay, 2019 DK Metcalf, even 2019 Aaron Rodgers for that matter, would have been pretty darn good. But
I lost Madden 2019 champs. Where did he go? And I lost Scarps. Uh-oh. What's going on here? All right. Give me a minute here. Hold on. Kind of doing something. Ian, can you hear me? Ian is frozen. Can anybody? Yeah, Mitch McConnell. That's a good one. Can you guys in the chat still hear me? Scarps? Are you on mute, maybe?
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Okay. All right. Fantastic. I don't know where Ben went. Thank you guys. I appreciate you letting me know. I don't know what happened. Scarps and I are good. Ben is in the background somewhere.
Ben's ripping a piss. Ian's having testicle difficulties.
Yeah. Melvin, don't you dare say
Testicle
something.
difficulties.
Yeah. I don't
Actually, Ian has never had testicle difficulties. So,
hey, welcome in. Our buddy from South Korea is here. Hello. My God, what time is it in South Korea right now? Is it like tomorrow night, something like that? I can't even keep track of these things.
yeah, it's already morning.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's just jump right in here. The DK Metcalf trade. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like something was coming. It was so quiet. It was just, but I thought it was going to be a quarterback. I thought Omar was going to, pull some artistry and find a way to trade for a known commodity at quarterback. But number one, I didn't know who that was going to be, but I don't know. So he makes the move for DK Metcalf, gives up a second rounder, swaps a couple late round picks, and then hands him about $150 million. So Scarps, what was your overall thought here?
I like it. I do. I think DK Metcalf is a stud. I think he's an alpha. I think he's a true wide receiver one. I am surprised, though, because they have set a precedent now.
Yeah.
They've set a precedent now. They have acquired someone from the outside and made him the highest paid player on the team. Now, for those of you who would be like, "Oh, this is your dad's Steelers," Omar's different. Okay, now I can officially say that they've made a move that they've never made before, and maybe they are different. I will say this though. Again, the quarterback situation is tough. We don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball. But I would say that clearly, and I'm not faulting him for this, but DK Metcalf was seeking a team that he felt comfortable with and paid him. And he said today he felt comfortable. We had good conversations with Mike and company. But let's be real, 150 million reasons.
Yeah.
Why?
At the end of the day,
And I will say one quick point. I will say this, that I have absolutely been dying on this hill that the Steelers don't make this move, and they haven't, and now they have. So now I can say, okay, you're right. They might do this in the future.
Yeah.
Are we talking about are we talking about the move or the player?
Yeah.
Well,
all right. Let everybody talk about the move, and then I'd like to talk about the player.
Sorry, now that I'm back and my internet's not shitty anymore. Hopefully,
you want to finish your point from before?
Yeah, I did actually. I just wanted to answer Mark's question of are we better or worse now than we were at the end of the year? I think in the short term we're worse, but in the long term we might be better. That a lot of these guys we've only signed to 1-year contracts, so we haven't really committed ourselves other than DK paying him $150 million over 4 years now. Five. Yeah. But other than DK Metcalf, other than that commitment, all the other, Darius Slay, he's old, but it was only a 1-year deal. Some of the other guys, 1 or 2 year deals, and we've amassed a bunch of compensatory picks for next year with all the guys that have signed for big money contracts that have gone elsewhere. So
who saw Dan Moore getting that deal?
Wow, for real.
Right.
Exactly. But so for 2025 might suck, but 2026 and beyond, we haven't mortgaged the future for the present at this point in time. Now, if we sign Aaron Rodgers to like $90 million over 2 years, I'm going to change what I'm saying. Yeah. But at this point in time, we have not mortgaged the future for the present, which I'm actually pretty happy about. So, I'm honestly fine with rolling with Mason Rudolph and other backup level quarterbacks for this season and see what happens, see where you pick, and use those comp picks to trade up, be aggressive, and go get someone next year in the draft, which, as Melvin points out, is in Pittsburgh. So it's it's one of those things where the short term, no, we're probably not better than we were at the end of last year, but for the long term, nothing we've done has mortgaged the future.
It almost feels too perfect, the fact that the draft is in Pittsburgh next year, and there's a very real possibility we could be looking to draft our quarterback of the future at the same time. It's like, who writes this shit? But Ben, what was your overall take on the DK Metcalf trade?
Well, first off, the press conference today reminded me a lot of some other high-profile signings. Myles Garrett having a change of heart, deciding that he really actually can win in Cleveland because they're going to pay him $40 million a year.
It's amazing how they change things.
Prior to that, Deshaun Watson, no, I will not play in Cleveland. You guys can stop offering me money. Oh, you're going to guarantee $230 million? Well, actually, I think, Cleveland is a good opportunity to win a championship. I'm going to go to Cleveland. DK, for his part, he wanted to play someplace where, one, it was warm. Two, he had a chance to compete for a championship. And three, they had a very good, high caliber quarterback. It's not warm in Pittsburgh. They have no shot at competing for a championship this season. And, until today, they didn't even have a backup quarterback, much less a high caliber quarterback. And we still don't. So, 150 million reasons to come to Pittsburgh. And, hopefully the Steelers build toward the future. He is the one guy they signed to a long-term deal. The running backs, all the running backs that have been signed, with the exception of Najee, really haven't gotten any money this year in free agency, which is odd because this is a big year for running back production in the league. So you thought they would get paid a little more. It is what it is. The DK thing to me is all about money. Him anyway. As far as what he does for the team, look, guys, if you get nothing else out of this show today, okay, George Pickens and DK Metcalf play the same position. And I don't mean they both play wide receiver. I mean, they both play wide. They play the Y position. They play the guy who runs the long routes and stretches the defense. They both play this. They're the same player. We need an X. We need a guy who can run routes and get open quickly. And neither one of those guys are that guy.
Scotty Miller, obviously.
Yes, sure. Scotty Miller at 5'9" and 175 pounds or whatever he is. Right now what we've got is we got two guys that are Ys. They both play on the same side. We've got slots. And we got no X. So, you
I
can
got a
draft
bunch
one.
of X's.
Egbuka, you could draft him. You could sign. There are some guys out there that could play the X. Maybe not super well, but they could play the X. They could trade for Brandon Ayuk. He's a good X. But you need a guy who can run routes and get open early in the down. And they don't have that guy right now. So the point I'm making is George Pickens is going to get traded. He's going to be gone in 26 anyway. He's going to be gone in 2020. Wow. They are not going to re-sign him. And at this point, what he is a commodity. He has some value in trade. So they're going to move him. That is my prediction. I'm 90% sure that's what's going to happen. No, nobody's telling me this in the building. Yes, I do have sources inside the building. Nobody's saying shit. Probably because they don't know, honestly. But I'm just following the tea leaves. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they're not gonna pay two wide receivers the kind of money that Pickens is going to want.
Ben, are you saying he's going to get traded before this season starts?
Hopefully before the draft, but he's definitely going to trade it before training camp, in my opinion.
I think it's very possible he gets
90%
traded on
sure.
draft day.
It could be, Ian. And what I was going to ask you guys is do you think that the Steelers would take a 2026 pick for him?
If it's a first round pick, yes.
Okay.
If it's a second or later, probably not.
Okay.
If it's so, and let's not forget when we traded Chase Claypool, that was basically a draft day trade, and what we got a second, and was that a second? No, Claypool was earlier. Sorry, I was thinking Martavis Bryant. Martavis Bryant was a draft day trade, and we got an early 3rd round pick and a 5th round pick.
Right.
But he wasn't traded until day 2 of the draft, because then we traded him, got the 3rd round pick that we used on Mason Rudolph, ironically, and then took James Washington in the 2nd round that year, right after we traded Claypool. So it's possible. I would, considering we just traded a 2nd round pick for DK Metcalf, I would take a 2nd round pick back for George Pickens this year. Now let's not forget a few years back when there was the cavalcade of trades. There's your SAT word for the day, Ben.
Cavalcade.
It means a whole bunch.
I want to see everybody in the chat spell it now.
Yeah. But when, AJ Brown went from Tennessee to Philly for a 1st round pick, and then Hollywood Brown went from Baltimore to the Cardinals for a 1st round pick. Those were all like the 20th overall pick or later. So at some point in the draft, I mean, this is a pretty good draft for wide receivers, but once the first 5 or so come off the board, then, you look at the teams picking after us and you say, hey, anybody want George Pickens here for your 1st round pick? And if that team thinks, George Pickens is better than what they can get with that 1st round pick, they might take a shot at him. The problem with making that kind of trade is a 1st round pick, even if he's not as good as George Pickens, you're going to have control over for 5 years, 4 years of a contract plus the 5th year option. Whereas Pickens just has 1 year left on his deal, so you're going to have to pay him right away.
Yeah.
So I could see a team.
This isn't a top heavy. It's not a top heavy
true.
wide receiver draft. So you're making a very good case, in my opinion, because it's not a wide receiver class with a bunch of guys with like 5 or 6 1st round grades that are wide receivers. It just, it's a deep class.
It's a nice class,
but it's not a top heavy class.
Right. Yeah. That said, once you get to day 2, you can basically spend the whole night after the 1st round negotiating with, hey, you have pick 33, you have pick 35. If your guy's not there, do you want George Pickens? And we'll take your, there's options there too, because there's always a lot of moves early in day 2 where teams try and go up and get their guys that they like that fell out of the 1st round. So there's options there. I could very well see Pickens being moved, maybe not on day 1 of the draft, but possibly day 2.
So a lot of movement potentially going to happen with wide receivers now that not only have they traded for Metcalf, but they have brought back Ben Skoranek, the so-called dirtbag, who does a little bit of everything. I'm glad he's back. Those are the kind of guys I love, kind of guys you win with. They do all the dirty work, dust the name. Scotty Miller, okay, fine. I'm not going to take it any farther than that.
No, not fine. We have enough fucking slot receivers.
I say fine, Ben. I say fine because I don't even think he's on this roster come fall. There's no way.
I think he is in camp, and again, it's a wasted body. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you?
I don't even know if he makes it to camp though, because
that's
hope
kind
not.
of my thinking. I hope not.
The dude had 5 catches last year.
Right.
He played a total of 10 special team snaps. What the?
Yeah. It makes little sense to me.
We need a backup punt returner for camp. Why?
You guys talked a little bit about. I think it might have been Ben that talked about the running backs. I like Kenneth Gainwell, and I like the price we got him for. Scarps, what does he do for you? I mean, we have Jalen Warren. Now we have Gainwell. We still have Cordero Patterson.
He averages more yards per carry than Najee Harris.
Well,
there's that.
Well, but it's it's like the Steelers were like, who's a backup guy that did well against us so we can sign if he's a free agent. So let me pull up the stat sheet while I do this. But Kenneth Gainwell is similar to a Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren's a little bit bulkier, but 5'9", 200 plus. Gainwell has almost 400 touches, 13 total touchdowns. But his longest play from scrimmage is 32 yards.
That sounds familiar, actually.
It's like now Warren has a longer play, but
right. But yeah,
it sounds like Najee Harris,
wasn't it?
But it sounds like Najee Harris. Now, Kenneth Gainwell was not drafted in the first round.
Correct. He's a former quarterback too.
But I don't mind it, but like again, to me, none of these moves move the needle for me. I would have gladly, and I mean this, I would have gladly not traded for DK Metcalf. Okay, if that meant that we spent our money on two elite defensive players, and I know we're already the highest paid defense.
Yep.
But this defense folds like a lawn chair when it matters most. And if they would have, Charvarius Ward and then Milton, ended up going to not Milton. I'm sorry.
Milton Williams. Yeah,
Milton Williams.
Milton Williams.
Wrong
Panthers,
first
I think, wasn't it?
No, he went to New England. So if they would have landed
Okay.
Milton Williams and Charvarius Ward instead of getting DK Metcalf, I would have been fine with that, because in the first round or second round or both, they could have taken a top receiver. So like Kenneth Gainwell is okay. I'm sure he's going to be a good spell back. I don't even think he's a third down back. I think he's just the next guy up. But I don't know. He's okay.
Do you see another a more of a number one true running back still part of this equation going into
so I think they could have gotten a Kenneth Gainwell in the fourth round this year.
It's fair.
I'm not mad that they got him. I'm not mad about the money or anything. I just
no me either.
I'm a little I'm a little perplexed about not Perplexico Burris, but
you shot yourself in the leg.
You know what I mean? Like I get
it. Because I like the guy. Every time I watch him with the Eagles, he spells a running back and he seems to do positive things. So it's like, hey, I like him. But
and at $1.8 million, I mean,
right.
I have no problem. I have no problem with the signing. I have no problem with the money. I just was thinking more overall my issues with free agency.
Yeah. I think to me, he's an improvement over Cordero Patterson, who is a wasted fucking roster spot. Was 32nd in the league in kick returns, which is the whole fucking reason he was brought onto the roster in the first place.
Right.
I did not like him as a running back. When they kept giving him snaps late in the season, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? So all of that, he's better than Ian made his comparison before, and I agree with him. He reminds me of Mewelde Moore, who did a lot of nice things. He was good at everything and great at nothing.
He was never going to be your feature back.
No, but if you needed a spot starter for a week or two, he could do it. And if you needed a guy to come in and be your scat back, he could do it. And if you needed a guy to get you 4 yards on 3rd and 3, not necessarily carrying it, but catching the ball out of the backfield behind the line of scrimmage. He could do it. And you need guys that do the dirty work and come in and are willing to be role players and play their asses off. And to me, that's what Gainwell is. So I personally think this is a good signing. The Steelers think that he's going to have the kind of impact that Deshaun Elliott had on the defense. So they're really high on him.
So do you think that they're looking for another feature back though?
Yeah, I think they're looking for a feature back. They're looking for a starter. Now, I don't know that they're going to find one.
Right.
And they may just end up going with Jaylen Warren, but Jaylen wasn't healthy most of the year last year. He never got there. So I don't know.
Okay. Ian, what
you count on the guy
on Gainwell?
Yeah, Ben kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I really like the signing of Gainwell. He was a guy that I mentioned last week on the show that if you want a guy that can complement Jaylen Warren and do a lot of similar things, right? He's good at catching swing passes out of the backfield. He's good in space when he can make guys miss. He's a pretty good outside zone runner when he's a one-cut guy. He's not real good up the middle, but he gives you the ability on the edges, right?
In space, give him a one-on-one versus a corner. He's going to get 10 more yards.
Yeah, exactly.
As he did against us.
Right. You can throw this guy a screen pass if you have a quarterback that can complete a screen pass, and he could take it 65 yards. I mean, he has that ability, and actually, he's a pretty good kick returner too.
How was he with the toss? Screw you, Tom.
Oh,
we're not throwing that fucking toss anymore. I hope
we're gonna throw it all the time.
We are. It's still gonna happen. It's just not gonna be with somebody like Najee who gets out to the corner so goddamn slowly.
We're going to pay DK Metcalf $150 million to block the toss play.
Right.
So,
DK, can you block a toss? That's all
right. Right. But no, I really like the Gainwell signing, and like Ben
DK can block.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can I finish the sentence here?
Yeah, sorry. That is one thing that's exciting. Sorry. The dude can block, and that actually amps me up.
Okay. Back to my point. Gainwell is a guy that, like Ben said with Mawade Moore, and like I said last week with the Mawade Moore comparison, that he can be your third down scat back. He can be your kick returner. He can be, but also if your starter gets hurt, he can step in and give you 15 to 20 carries a game and probably grind out 100 yards for you if you need it. That he's not going to do that every week in and week out. He cannot be a 17-game starter, but for one or two games, he can probably give you that if you need him to start. And I really like that versatility and just kind of everything he brings around. So he's not like the be-all, end-all answer to fixing the offense. But having those kind of role players are guys that you win with, right?
Yeah.
We won with Mawade Moore. The Eagles won with Kenneth Gainwell as their backup to Saquon Barkley, that he did a lot of those just other things that were needed. And he's actually, I mean, he's shorter than Mawade Moore. He's like 5'9", and Moore was 5'11", but he's still 5'9", 201. So he's got some thickness to him. Yeah. And he's not a bad pass blocker. So he can do a lot of things. I like the signing overall, right? And at $1.8 million or whatever it is, like, I'm not gonna get super worked up and be like, this sucks. I can't believe.
No.
He's what, running back 2 at best, running back 3 at worst, and also, like we said, another 1-year signing, right? Warren's on a 1-year restricted free agent deal, and then Gainwell is on a 1-year contract. That still doesn't preclude us from drafting a running back also to add to this room and finally getting rid of Cordarrelle Patterson, who's still fucking under contract.
Matter of time.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
But I think that also gives you the flexibility.
Paid this year?
Some stupid amount.
Whatever
it is, it's too much.
He signed a 2-year, and I'm not going to pretend to know what the amount was.
Whatever it is, too much.
Yeah.
Let's flip over to the other side of the ball here because there were a number of signings.
Just sorry, one final piece to that. Now it gives you the flexibility. You can draft a running back in the middle rounds, round 3, round 4, round 5, and they don't have to step in and start right away. That you have Warren can start, Gainwell can back them up, and you can work the new guy in slowly. But then that can be your guy of the future.
I like that. Yeah. Defensively, we did sign some dudes here. Let's start with Darius Slay. Scarps, I know the age thing bugs you. It bugs me a little bit too. I try to look at it. I try to take the number away in terms of, okay, this guy's 34 and I watch him play. I think he's got a little bit left, but I don't know how much, and I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts?
How much of his success last year was based on that the Eagles had a monster defensive line? I mean that, and I don't know. You watch the tape, which I don't, and I'm not going to claim that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the guy can still play a little bit, but what happens when our defensive line, who is okay, but what happens when
right
they
now
don't
it's
get,
non-existent.
But what happens when we don't get a pass rush? I think it's good for the locker room.
Yeah,
I think he's a guy that's won. I think he's also a guy that's lost. He was in Detroit for a long time. So again, I'm okay with it, but like that's your second. I don't know. That's your biggest free agent signing, because DK was a trade. Your biggest free agent acquisition is a 34-year-old cornerback, who just so happens wanted to always play for Mike Tomlin. And haven't I heard that before with Patrick Peterson?
Ever.
And that he mentioned the fact that he talks to Joe Hayden and Patrick Peterson about Tomlin before signing the deal.
I don't know about you guys, but I appreciate
those guys won a lot, didn't they?
I appreciate a guy that does some homework.
They won a lot of regular season games.
Yep. Yep.
I like the signing a lot. So
Come on, Ian, set me straight, babe.
Yeah.
Quit your bitching, fucking hater.
I like it because, for starters, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal because it's just a 1-year contract. And yes, we're paying him $10 million, but
yeah, I was
whatever.
just going to say, what about a 1-year, $50 million deal? That's a bad fucking deal. Come on.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I know what you're saying, Ian.
1 year, $50 million would be a bad deal, but we're not going to
Depends on the guarantee. It's all about the guaranteed cash.
Right. It's a 1-year deal for an aging player who, I mean, you watched him in the Super Bowl, you watched him in the playoffs. He had a pick 6 in the playoffs. He's still got something left in the tank. And I've always been a big advocate for signing cornerbacks signing veteran quarterbacks in free agency that have experience, that know what they're doing out there. And because it's really hard to draft and develop corners. It takes corners longer than almost any other position to kind of come up to speed with the NFL. Like wide receivers, running backs, those guys can step in as rookies and pretty much play NFL football. Corners, it takes a while. And it unless you're getting, a premier guy like when Jalen Ramsey came out or when Patrick Peterson was a rookie, like you could tell he had it right from the get-go. But I mean, those guys were top 5 picks. So unless you're getting one of those kind of guys or a Sauce Gardner, right, it takes a while for the rest of the cornerback group to kind of transition from college into the NFL. So he's got something left in the tank, but we're also not committed to him past this year. So if he sucks this year, then it's like, okay, thanks for your service. And we probably weren't going anywhere anyways. And like, he can't give less effort than Dante Jackson gave in that playoff game, right? That was the least effort I think I've ever seen a cornerback give. Even going back to like fucking Antoine Blake, at least he ran and tried out there. Like he sucked, but at least he tried. Like Dante Jackson in that playoff game didn't even look like he wanted to try. It was horrible.
The problem was he wasn't the only one.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't by far. But I think having a guy who's, like Ryan said, who's won something is good. And on a 1-year deal that's not a top of the market deal. I mean, it's not, for corners, $10 million is not even a middle of the market deal. So I think it's fine, and maybe it helps JPJ a little bit because Slay was a guy who was a little grabby earlier in his career, but he's still got something and can give you, some turnover, some good. He can lock down on guys if he needs to. And actually, the Eccles, the guy we signed from the Jets, so I'll transition a little here on that one, that he had to play some outside corner last year too because of the injuries they had.
Yes.
So it wasn't, yes, he's played a lot in the slot and that might be his best position, but he has some outside experience too. So having a guy that can give you that versatility hopefully means that we never have to see Cam Sutton again because that dude was awful.
I'm hopeful that's the last.
Sure.
Of that.
Yinzer Nation told me he was going to save the season last year after he served the suspension for a personal conduct
totally
policy
did.
violation for
And he did.
Asshole.
He
said
saved
it.
it all
Don't
right.
care.
Yeah,
Hater.
Jesus. Ben, what are your thoughts on the acquisition of Darius Slay?
I like it.
Yep.
I see it as basically a reflection of the Steelers and Slay being unable to arrive at a 3-year deal because the guarantees get bigger when you do multi-year deals, and that was what Slay wanted when he was going into free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he's hoping to go into free agency again next year and get paid again. If you just look at it based upon the play of the free agent corners that were available this year, Slay played the best of those guys last year. The knock against him, and it's valid, is that he's 34.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's legit. So 1 year, $10 million. If he was 27, that would have been 1 year, $35 million. I don't know. It would have been something fucking ridiculous. Or it would have been a multi-year deal, and the Steelers never would have gotten him. Really, the reason I think the Steelers went after him was, and I alluded to this before, and I was being a smart ass, Patrick Peterson, but it is that one of the biggest issues last year in the defensive backfield was communication. And you still got a young corner in Joey Porter who's making mistakes. He's really talented, ridiculously so, but he's still making mistakes.
Yeah.
Was it Grady Brown? I'm sorry. I've had some drinks. Our DB's coach, Grady.
It was Grady something. I always think of Grady from Sanford and Son.
God damn it, Ian.
Yeah,
who was
Grady
it?
Brown.
It was Grady Brown.
Yeah, he was a defensive back.
Grady Brown lost his fucking job basically because there were so many communication issues in the defensive backfield. So you bring in a new DB's coach, you sign a guy like Slay, who's a respected vet, been around for a long time, knows the ins and outs, knows how to read what the offense is going to do, knows quarterbacks. You bring him in to talk to your guys and teach them. Your young guys, the guys that they had left basically at corner were Beanie and Joey Jr., and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you bring in a guy like that to mentor those young guys and bring them up. And it's a 1 year deal. And hopefully, he plays well enough to stick around for a while. If not, he doesn't. But it really is a reflection of the fact that the Steelers and Slay just could not come to a long-term deal because of the guaranteed numbers involved with the long-term deal.
I do what some of the guys in the chat are talking about Aaron Roberts, and
that does suck.
I'll just preface before we get to that he is a guy that I swung and missed on. I thought he was a no-brainer to return. I thought that he was great as a 2-down linebacker. He's definitely not a 3-down backer. We knew that going in. And I mean, he was just an absolute hammer against the run. He's a leader. He's got that experience you love. And I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought he was coming back. And
his leadership ability was the reason I thought he was coming back.
Yeah. I mean,
he barely got a raise going to the Raiders. I mean, barely.
It just seemed to fit. And
with an escalating salary cap, I would have expected a guy like that to get $5 million a year, and he got $3 million.
Yeah. So the Steelers go ahead and they went with Malik Harrison. who played with the Ravens last year, and
special teams ace, spot
very
starter.
good. Yep. I think he had his best overall year last year, statistically speaking.
Yeah.
If you talk to some people that watch a lot of tape, they'll tell you that he had some real struggles at times.
Yeah.
But
The
do you guys
dude-
think he's more special teams than anything?
Yeah, the dude played 76% of the Ravens special team snaps.
Right.
Okay, so he played a fuck ton of teams, and
Is that a technical term?
That's a technical term. That's
Dictionary
your
term for tonight.
Fuck ton is your SAT term for the day. Audience from Ben, not
We'll
from
be in
Ian.
chapter 3 this week, kids.
I used a different term in the chat earlier that I told everybody they're gonna have to look up. Yeah, he's a guy who can give you spot starts if you gotta have him. But really, what he's there for is to play teams, and that's fine. He's going to be a third, fourth linebacker, probably fourth. If I'm being honest, but we'll see how that all pans out. Larry O leaving was not a bummer, Dom. Sorry, Larry O leaving. Larry O was the one guy on the defensive line I thought last year who was a minus player. He played well in spots, in little spurts. But most of the time, Larry O, God bless him, nice guy, didn't play well. And I don't know how the hell somebody saw his play last year and gave him $8 million, but they did.
I'm just replying here to Steve.
A lot of new
Steve,
folks in the
Cordero
chat
Patterson
tonight
is still employed.
Yeah.
Why?
Shout
Why
out
the fuck?
to the people who don't always join us.
Great group tonight. Thanks
you.
everybody for being here. We've awesome audience tonight. Thank you.
We just appreciate the interaction because it makes for a better show.
Yes, it does.
We can talk back and forth with you guys, and you guys give us ideas. Not gonna lie, you make the show better.
That's just preposterous. I have a full agenda,
except for you,
right
Aaron.
Here.
Aaron, the shit you say is always dumb, so stop posting it. But the rest of you, thank you. Well, he's from Ohio. He can't help it.
So, as Scarps tugs on his Ohio sweatshirt.
$120,000 sweatshirt right here, baby.
Right, baby. One more guy before we start talking some quarterbacks. Brandon Eccles. And Ian, you kind of alluded to the fact that he can do both, inside, outside, and he was forced to play a lot of outside this past year with the Jets because of some injuries to DJ Reed, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So he does have that ability. What are your initial thoughts on Mr. Eccles?
I said at the beginning of the offseason that we needed to add three or four cornerbacks to this group.
Yeah.
And we've added 2 so far. So fine. Like you can never have enough corners in this league. Like you need 6 playable cornerbacks, because if one guy gets hurt and you got to bring in more guys, like you need 6 playable corners now in the NFL. And that's just how it is. So you can never have enough of them. I'm fine with it. It wasn't big money.
Mm-hmm.
He has some versatility.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's fine. It's good.
I would say the one thing, and Ben, I'll let you address it too. The one thing that he offers you that maybe Beanie Bishop doesn't is now Beanie did play some outside stuff at West Virginia, but I think he's pretty exclusively in the slot in the NFL. So I think that's the difference, that Eccles does give you that ability at the NFL level to do a little bit of both, but that separates him a little bit from Beanie. Ben, what's your take on Eccles?
He's better outside than he is inside, in my opinion.
Okay.
But the thing that he gives you is his ability as a gunner on kickoffs.
Yeah.
Which isn't as important anymore, being honest. But on punts, it's vitally important.
Huge.
I think the Steelers think that they can, because he's a good tackler, that they can teach him to play slot. He's not great in coverage in slot. he's better in coverage on the outside. It really is. Very, the dude that can really play inside outside, that's a rare player.
It really has become rare, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it always has been.
The dude that can do both is a rare individual,
Mm-hmm.
Inside outside always reminds me of the Who's 515. Inside outside.
Yep.
I've been drinking, but
Haven't we all?
Hey, I love the fucking Who, as you know.
I'm gonna hot take here. Hot take here. The Who
hater. I'm just gonna preemptively call you a hater.
This has become a rock and roll podcast now.
Fine with me. The Who and the Who and the Kinks are undercelebrated because of the Beatles and Stones. But for those listeners out there,
okay,
they're undercelebrated. They are.
Think so?
Yes. The Who and the Kinks should be held in higher regard. I'm just saying. Anyway,
I mean, I think they're held in pretty high regard now.
But
I see what you're saying, Scarps.
I were just as equally as important as the Beatles and the Stones, but they're never they're never in that same category.
They're not in the same stratosphere. I don't think they should be held in the same air, rarefied air, but they're very good, and I think that people really, really respect the work they did. That's me, though. Anyway,
that's fair. All right,
moving on. Steelers.
So anyway,
ladies and gentlemen, this has been the British invasion portion of tonight's show.
So for Landon Roberts, real quick, he was like the only free agent that I wanted them to re-sign.
Right? Love that.
So
dude.
whatever. Yeah. So
I mean, shit. I love Najee too. I just didn't like the way he played.
Right.
Yeah. So the new corner. I don't know enough about him.
Burner, he's not that bad. Shut up.
He had a nice. He had a nice press conference today, and seems like a nice kid. So good for him. So that's my opinion on that. What's next?
Well, what's next is one Mason Rudolph.
Wow. Son of a bitch.
Now look,
this is Ryan Scarpino's favorite player ever.
Look, the talk all week was Aaron Rodgers, and I think the majority of the fan base wants nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. Now, does that affect what Art Rooney too or Omar Khan think and feel? I don't think so. Their job is to put a product on the field that they feel can win, and if they believe that Aaron Rodgers can provide that, then that's what they're going to do. I think all of us are pretty much in agreement. We're not fans of this, and it continues to show that, quite frankly, Rodgers is playing everybody, and I understand allowing him to have, say, 24 hours to make a decision because the Giants were involved, the Vikings were involved. But at some point, you got to commit here, man. And if I were the Steelers, I'd be like, okay, we're good. We're moving on. But that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Mason Rudolph. So Scarps, you have been the number one Mason defender of the four of us. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I love you, dude. But you have, and
he's not wrong.
What are your thoughts?
You are the president of the Mason Rudolph Appreciation Society.
That's right. You are the president. You are the vice president and the treasurer.
It's not vice president, but he is a founding member and the president.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on two coming back to the fold?
So I am surprised to an extent that he came back. Because, in my opinion, this team has fucking dicked him around so many times.
Shut the fuck up. They did
finish?
not.
Can I finish?
Let him finish, damn it.
So, I say this because
the team made it. All right, whatever. Go on.
What the fuck? We need.
Go ahead. I'm going to mute
his
ass in a minute.
What was I going to say? This is like we need around the horn again. We need to fucking mute people. So they drafted him. They publicly talked about that first round grade, which should have never been said ever.
Agree.
Kevin's fault.
Yeah, and I love Kevin, but Kevin should have never said that. And so Mason has always been the ultimate pro. Has had such a weird career. The Earl Thomas hit that knocked him out. The Myles Garrett helmet hit. And hey, Myles Garrett just fucking got a bag. So going back to focus here. And then he should have been the bridge guy in 2022, but no, they brought in Mitch Trubisky, and then they drafted Kenny Pickett. Fuck Kenny Pickett.
Shit kick.
Listen, good for Kenny Pickett that he won a Super Bowl, but Kenny Pickett still has the lowest touchdown percentage of any quarterback that's ever thrown 750 passes.
I would like to note for the record that it did take 56 and a half minutes before Kenny Pickett was mentioned tonight. So that's got to be a record.
So and then in 2023, when Tomlin was like, damn, Kenny Pickett sucks, Mitch Trubisky sucks, better check to see what Mason could do. And he fucking led them to 3 straight victories and into the postseason. You know what? He went to Buffalo, and you know what? If only we had Josh Allen, maybe we would have won that game. So the fact that Mason I really do, I believe that like he has never taken anything personally. He has treated this, hey, it's just business.
Yeah.
And if there were any issues or there was any lingering impact of the former relationship, he wouldn't have signed here. And it was said today that he had other offers, but he wanted to come here. And I sit there and think, okay, the guy's made a decent living. Maybe he has something to prove too. And maybe if Dr. DMT doesn't show up, maybe Mason is the guy. And
honestly, wouldn't you prefer that? Wouldn't the 3 of you prefer that?
Yes, and I know I've talked a lot in this segment.
I agree.
But I want to say this right now, and I will fucking bet anything that they are going to win the same amount of games
exactly
with Mason Rudolph or Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna tell you one guy who's not gonna fucking shit on his teammates and talk and go on Pat McAfee every week and be like, "Yeah, well, he was supposed to run this route, he didn't run that route, and but by the way, do your own research." Shut the fuck up. I fucking can't. And listen, maybe I can't stand Aaron. This is a tangent, but maybe I can't stand Aaron Rodgers because he picked us apart in the only opportunity I ever had to win a Super Bowl, and I didn't fucking play, but I was on the sidelines.
I was on the sidelines. I remember
in
seeing
my fucking Men's Warehouse suit that my mom bought for me. Just
you're gonna like the way you look. I guarantee it.
I guarantee this night is not going to end that well. And he picked us apart. You
need to look good on the sidelines. Let's go to Men's Warehouse.
But I remember sitting there thinking, like, holy shit, like this dude has arrived, and he did. But then he became such an asshole. And this is a tangent.
He was always an asshole.
No. And I want to be fair to the guy. I want to be fair to the guy. Who
the fuck doesn't talk to their mom?
Let him finish.
Hold on a second. So
I've had some
love you, Mason. Love you, Mason. But I want to get back to Rodgers, and I want to defend him for a second. And I don't want to get political here, but all fucking week on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, people are like, "Oh, if you don't like Aaron Rodgers' politics, you're the problem." What are his politics? And I really want to say this. What are his politics? He's never endorsed. He's never endorsed Trump. He has talked about not wanting to take the COVID shot. So and I want to defend him by saying, is being an independent thinker political now? So No, I have no problem with his thoughts or political beliefs or whatever. I have a problem that in the last 3 seasons, out of any quarterback that's thrown 1,000 passes, there's 22 quarterbacks that have done this. He ranks 20th in adjusted net yards per attempt. He is shit. And you know who's
it's
ahead
only
of him?
40 million, Ryan. What the fuck? What's the big deal?
And you know who's ahead of him in this category? Russell Wilson.
Yep.
So you're gonna fucking pay Aaron Rodgers all this money, and he's the same as Russ. So like that's my problem with Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, thank you for listening. Come to my TED Talk.
Listen, I have another fucking problem with this asshole, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping in. You guys can all stop.
No, go ahead. I have a point after
fucking
Ben does.
issue I have with this dickhead.
I'm done, Ian. I'm done.
The biggest fucking issue I have with this dickhead, I'm already sick of his shit. He's not even on the goddamn team yet. Is his fucking media career. Shut the fuck up. Stop doing McAfee every goddamn week. Stop making yourself the center of fucking attention. Shut the fuck up. Stop throwing your teammates under the bus and then pretending you're a good teammate. Well, I was actually being a good teammate when I was throwing him under the bus, and because I'm telling him how he can improve.
That is one of his 4 rules for being a champion.
Publicly telling him how he can improve. You fucking asshole. The guy's a fucking prick. He's a fake fucking dickhead. He's just as fake as Russ, who's also fake, but Russ is fake in a positive way. He's Mr. fucking Unicorns.
Positive fake.
And he's unicorns and rainbows and lollipops and everything is great. Don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. And then his diametric opposite is this asshole from the Jets, who is like, no, fuck, that's fucking bullshit. But actually, I'm being a good teammate. The guy's a fucking prick. Fuck him. Don't want him. I'd rather start the season with Mason. Really, I would. Fuck him. I'm done. Sorry.
All right. Ben has officially passed off. Ian, you may now reply to this.
All right. I have absolutely zero interest in seeing a Steelers team quarterbacked by Aaron Rodgers.
Tom, you're right. I do.
If Aaron Rodgers was our quarterback, I would say this would probably be the least excited I was for a Steelers season since like 1999. And we have some very smart listeners in our chat who will remember that was, the 98 year ended horribly, and there was all these bad vibes going into 99.
Yeah.
And 99 was also not good. And 2000 wasn't good either. I think 2000 was the year that Jim Miller started the first game and they benched him after 3 quarters. That was the Loxton Jacksonville.
After 2 quarters.
Yeah. And that was it.
Maybe that was 98. Whatever it was. Like those were some bad years and just bad vibes all around those years. And I would feel worse with Rodgers starting than I did going into those seasons. It was bad. So
I would feel the same as if Mason started. I mean,
I would honestly, I would feel better.
The nail on the head before when he said you win just as many games with Mason as you will with Aaron. So why the fuck invest $40 million into this asshole?
I honestly think you win more with. I think honestly, if Mason Rudolph is our starting quarterback, looking back at what he did after they fired Matt Canada, and let's remember that Mike Sullivan is still in the building as like the. He's not the quarterback's coach anymore, but he's like, executive offensive assistant or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the de facto offensive coordinator for those 3 games that Mason started.
Yeah.
And also George Pickens had his 2 best games of his career when Mason Rudolph started. And then he had 1 game where he did absolutely nothing. But like, let's not forget.
Still a great point though.
That Baltimore game, he didn't throw a hissy fit. He didn't lose his shit.
Right.
Like
Correct.
Mason was like, look, they're doubling you. I'm going to get the ball to the open guys and we're going to win this game and go to the playoffs. Like Mason actually was able to control that locker room and rein those guys and their egos
all those personalities in. Exactly.
And he said, he set the team record for completion percentage, minimum 20 attempts in a fucking tsunami.
I will just tell you guys.
Sir.
So
I was at that Seahawks game at the end of the season that year. It wasn't the last game, but it was second to last game.
The next last game, yeah.
The dude was ballsy as fuck because they just kept sending more and more pressure, trying to rattle him. He stood in and delivered the ball on
Took
time
some shots that game
all day long. The guy was
Yep.
money.
Yeah.
Yep.
I earned my respect. As far as I'm concerned, that dude is on my cool list forever. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to invite him over for dinner like Scarps will, but he is on my cool list forever.
Gonna have some baked ziti.
And let's not
no, not
yes,
Rodgers.
all the
Mason.
Right. All the points that were made too, that Russ had a better year last year statistically than Aaron Rodgers did. And Aaron Rodgers was throwing to arguably more talented receivers. He 100%. Had a better he had 100%. Garrett Wilson. He had better running backs coming out of the backfield with Breece Hall that he could dump the ball off to and take it 60 yards. Right. He had Devontae Adams, who Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson together are infinitely better than George Pickens and Van Jefferson. So I don't know how you say that Aaron Rodgers is a better option for us right now than Russell Wilson would be. Like, Russ wasn't good down the stretch. We've all admitted this, but he was better than fucking Aaron Rodgers was. And Rodgers' problem always has been he's always thrown off his back foot and just relied on his arm strength to get the ball there. He's done it his whole career. This is not a new thing. But now with a bum Achilles that he tore the year before, he can't move as much. He's relying even more on his arm strength. If his arm strength goes, it's going to be even worse than like the last year of Peyton Manning. He's got nothing because he's never had good footwork to push off and throw the ball. So he's always thrown off his back foot and just relied on his arm to try and get the ball there. And if you thought it was bad watching Mitch Trubisky throw the ball off his back foot,
I didn't say
that. And get it there, it's going to be even worse if Rodgers loses his. I would be much more comfortable watching Mason Rudolph start 17 games and just being like, it is what it is, guys. We're going to draft a quarterback next year and we'll just see what happens. Than watching fucking Aaron Rodgers. I have no interest in Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't excite me at all.
The thing that people need to realize when they criticize all of us who understand the cap about cap expenditures, it's like they say, well, it's not your money. I don't know why you're so worked up over this. Because it's a waste of resources. Cap dollars roll over. Do you ever wonder how the Cleveland Browns have so much fucking cap space? It's because cap dollars roll over every year. So if you don't spend it this year, if you don't give Aaron Rodgers $40 million fucking dollars, you have that next year. You can spend that next year. So that's why we all look at it as, okay, this is basically just resource allocation. All right. Well, in that case, no, I don't like this signing. Yes, I do like this one. And we measure it that way because you can continue to. It isn't. You're right. It's not my money. But I look at it purely from a math standpoint and go, okay, next year they're going to have this much more in terms of cap dollars because they didn't spend it last fucking year on somebody who sucks anyway.
Hey, one quick point.
Yeah.
Who has familiarity with DK Metcalf and George Pickens? Russell Wilson. Who has familiarity with George Pickens? Mason Rudolph. Who doesn't have any fucking familiarity with either one of them? Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams is still a pretty good wide receiver. They've connected on about 700 catches.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the Rodgers tape from last year, don't you think some of his success came from the fact that him and Devontae had worked together so long? Similar to Ben and AB, where you just were on the same page. You knew when to throw it. You knew where to throw it. So and also too, I can't believe it. But this asshole is walking on a beach in swim trunks with a blanket over it, with a beanie on and some fucking cheap AirPods. I can't get behind this guy. I can't even get behind Russ. But I look at Mason and I'm like, you know what? They should have already done this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're 3 years behind. So
yeah,
let's
they
just
owe him the $8
fucking-
million, right? I
Well,
mean,
you-
honestly,
But let's
It's
just
like you want to rally behind Mason.
Yes.
based,
you know?
based upon, and I'm sorry, I was teasing Ryan before because he deserves it, but based upon Mason's play at the stretch and at the end of 2023, he deserves this contract. He deserved it
Holy
last.
fuck.
He deserved it last
Wow.
year. He deserves
Yeah.
$8 million. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Does he not? And
Mhm.
honestly, I mean, I said it last year. I thought he deserved the opportunity to compete to be the starter in 2024. He didn't get it, but he deserved it.
And listen, here's the next thing. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to listen to Arthur Smith?
Oh, fuck no.
You're
No.
insane
Fuck
in the
no.
membranes. # Cypress Hill. But the point being is that I think Mason would be willing to listen, but he's a vet enough to say, hey, you know what? I think we could do this. And you know what? Out of Russ or Mason, let's just take Mr. Do your own research out of the equation. Out of Russ or Mason, who actually has the stones to throw the ball in the middle of the field? It's Mason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'm not going to blame anybody for doubting Mason. I'm not. I don't give a shit about that. I think that this team, I hope, because they've already sort of compiled compensatory picks for 2026, that they've recognized that, hey, Mason probably should have been the guy all along. We're going to bring him back as the backup because we're banking on Aaron Rodgers. But also, Aaron Rodgers, maybe he's not healthy, but I'd like to think that this team recognizes that we are not looking to contend in 2025, but we are trying to contend in 2026. And
Sure.
if you're listening to the podcast and you think that they're going to contend this year, I'm sorry, but they're not. They are
They're
a
not.
9 to 10 win team at best, whether Mason Rudolph or Aaron Rodgers is the
Exactly.
quarterback.
They're what they
And I'll
have
tell you
been.
this, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
this right now. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, I would bet that they win less games
I would
than
agree.
if Mason Rudolph was
I'm
the
not going to
quarterback.
go that far, but what I will say is they're
I'm
going to win the same
going
amount
there.
of games. They're going to win the same amount of games, and they're not going to win the playoffs anyway. So why the fuck sign him? Why?
Yeah.
There's no
Totally
fucking
agree.
point in it.
And I would say-
to your point before about him not caring, you're not going to listen. Listen, the dude gave no fucks before. When he was with the Jets, his head coach, Robert Saleh, tried to hug him when he was coming off the field.
Oh, yeah.
A touchdown. He was trying to celebrate with him, and the dude was like, no, fuck off. I'm not a hugger. No. Whatever, douchebag. The dude gives no fucks. He already doesn't fucking care. Coming to Pittsburgh is not going to make him care. Okay? This is fucking. I'd rather have Russ, and he sucks.
Yeah, no, I would too. And the other thing too that crosses my mind is if Mason does become the starter and plays well, he's still young enough you can keep rolling with him a little bit. Whereas Rodgers, fucking, he's 41.
Yeah. Why?
Why
It's-
even bother?
it-
Yeah, I don't get that part.
It's
Aaron Rodgers did discover one thing today, though.
Ayahuasca?
It's not actually 3 rivers. It's 2 rivers that converge into
that was a
one.
great tweet.
That was a great tweet.
It was. It's only actually 2 rivers. That's
Truly
the truth
incredible.
of the matter.
Which is an incredible song by Jeff Beck. FYI, 2 rivers.
By the way, I
Great
heard they
fucking
dumped the
song.
sewage into the Ohio River so that it flows down to Cleveland.
Yeah, well,
Cincinnati,
yeah,
actually.
That's just
Cincinnati.
a rumor.
Cincinnati, yeah.
It's
Come on,
just
man.
a rumor. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Just
It's
saying.
actually Cincinnati, but yes.
Cincinnati's fine.
Someone DoorDash Ben some more alcohol.
Thanks, Tom.
That's great.
I got
Tom.
more here. We're good.
Well
We're good.
played. Well played.
I would honestly like at this point, I would rather roll with Mason, Skylar Thompson, and a rookie that you pick in the 3rd or 4th round,
but
than
not
signing
Jackson Dart.
than signing Aaron
okay.
Rodgers.
Okay.
God,
right.
please don't Jackson
Ian?
Dart. Please,
Ian,
God.
I'm going to give this right back to you.
Okay.
I'll go last.
We've talked a lot about the fact
Yeah.
that we should just roll with Mason
Yeah.
because of the fact that
And our
we
very
wanna-
smart people in the chat have agreed with us.
Yeah,
too.
overwhelmingly. Okay. But you just said
No,
maybe
not Shuff.
quiet, man. Maybe have a rookie as your 3rd stringer from the 3rd and 4th round. Now, I don't see us drafting a quarterback, period.
Shut up, Aaron.
If our long-term plan is 2026, there is no reason to draft a quarterback. Am I wrong in thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you can draft a quarterback in the mid rounds that
Okay.
is essentially a career backup. Think Landry Jones, right?
Exactly.
We got him in round 4.
Yes.
He was a career backup who hung around long enough to be an acceptable spot starter, but was
And
never
even play
going
in the UFL.
he was never going to be a starter in the league, but he was good enough to be your number 2.
Yeah.
And as Ben has mentioned, if we had re-signed Landry Jones that 1 year, we probably would have won that game in Oakland if Josh Dobbs hadn't come in.
Right.
Now, Josh Dobbs has turned himself into a decent backup quarterback later on in his career, but guys who hang around the league long enough just learn enough and know enough for how to play, right? Like Ryan Fitzpatrick was horrible when he was a young player, but just hung around the league long enough that he learned the position and learned how to play. And he was smart enough that he was able to, Harvard grad and all that.
Parlayed
Geno
it into
Smith.
a nice TV career.
Yeah, nice TV career.
Geno
But,
Smith, same deal,
right,
dude.
exactly.
And Fitzmagic is such a fucking nice dude. He's so cool. Anyway, go ahead.
So
like
my point is,
He is.
my point is, if your long-term plan is targeting your quarterback of the future in the 2026 draft,
Okay.
then you still need a backup at some point.
Right.
And you signed Mason for 2 years, Skylar Thompson for 1. So like drafting a quarterback in the mid rounds this year, he could be your number 3 this year, essentially your, number 3 next year when you have maybe Mason and a draft pick, and then maybe be your number 2 of the future, right? That mid-round picks don't often turn into starters, but having a solid, decent backup quarterback, Charlie Batch, so on and so forth, has benefited us. It has benefited many teams in the past because you never know when guys are going to get injured. So I'm not opposed to using a mid-round pick this year on a quarterback, just because this team has 0 long-term prospects at quarterback for starters or backups.
I do like what Cliff suggested. I'm not necessarily saying Brady Cook, but I would prefer maybe 6th or 7th round, just because I think we have so many needs that I would rather use that on more of a positional player in the mid rounds. But I see where you're going.
I don't think we have a 6th. I think we have 3 7.
No, you're right. We have a
we do have a 6th now.
Now we do
the
right.
DK swap.
Right, the swaps. Yep.
Yeah. The DK
so Charlie
trade
has a really good point.
Yeah.
That all QBs in the draft are Picketeers.
Correct.
I think Cam Ward's a little better than Pickett, but I think everyone else is,
Cam Ward's got a big ass arm, man.
And he makes some plays.
and
Like
he can
when
move his
things
feet.
break down, he can make some magic happen.
He reminds me of Ben in so much as he just keeps ducking and breaking tackles until he finds an open guy. And so if his players know how to run a scramble drill, he's going to be super effective. He just is. And that really was the secret to Ben's success. Like, he would extend those third downs, to 7-8 seconds. And it was just like, what the fuck? When is he? Oh, okay. The ball's out and a guy's open. There we go.
It's like
and first down or touchdown.
Yep. Like you said, Ben, you got to have guys that can adjust to that type of quarterback.
Yeah. You got to have guys that are coached to, hey, listen, it's a broken play. Now we all just got to scramble around and it's backyard football now. Ben's just looking for an open guy.
Yeah.
He's going to run around until he can find a spot where he can throw the ball. And now it's backyard football. You get open. He throws you the ball. We get the first down. We get the touchdown, whatever, It's that. And Cam Ward is that guy. He's difficult to take down, and he's got the big arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we were drafting high enough to get him, but we're not.
No, Ian, if we were closer to the draft, pick 21, what do you think we're doing right now?
Defensive tackle. Just for how much they scouted at the Senior Bowl. I don't know who's going to be available there. Haven't done enough research yet, but if I had to gut pick, I'd say defensive tackle. Okay. As much as I would like Ibuka from Ohio State, because I think he fits a lot of what we need on offense.
A lot of ways. Yeah. Block, everything.
Yeah, I love the way that kid plays, but I think if I had to go gut pick, defensive tackle right now.
And just to add too, Tomlin has been at the pro days for both Georgia and Clemson the last couple of days. Yeah. And oddly enough, neither one of those teams really has any major first round guys this year that we would be interested in.
There's one at Georgia. He goes to not really.
He goes to those every year.
He does.
Right? And also, let's not forget that Tomlin has flat out said in the past, he goes to pro days and is like, hey, who should I come here next year to watch? Right. It's not always this year scouting. Oh, right. Sometimes it's future year scouting that, he said.
And he's funny. He asks the players.
Oh, yeah. He said he was turned on to Bud Dupree because he went to see somebody the year before at Kentucky and was like, hey, who am I going to watch next year? And they're like, this Bud Dupree dude is pretty damn good. Keep an eye on him. And then we wound up drafting him. So yeah, it's
more than just this year.
Yeah. Tomlin for his game management faults is a very smart football guy and plays 4D chess with this draft stuff. He just eats, sleeps, and breathes football. He loves football and likes to be around it and likes to know all the guys that are up and coming, not just, the current guys in the draft, but the next year and the year after and all that too.
Scarps, does Dino Tomlin end up on this roster at some point?
Oh my God.
I'm just going to say this. From a public relations standpoint, which is my bread and butter, he better not. You want to talk about reputation and
right,
issues and image and brand? Do not put him on this. Do not even let him try out.
Would him coming to the Steelers, would that be like Bronny coming to the Lakers?
And then going to the G League. Listen, I'm sorry, Scarps, go ahead.
No, I just if I say I got a boy here. I have a little girl on the way, and if any of them are ever, well, I'm not Mike Tomlin. I don't coach an NFL football team, but the point being that if I'm ever in a position of power like that, and my kid has the potential to join me, I'm going to make them work for it. And I don't think Dino Tomlin has earned that right to do it. So, but at the same time, I love my kids. I want to make sure that they get, a good first impression out of college. Perhaps maybe I call another head coach that I'm cool with. And I say, hey, listen, you got any extra rookie free agents that you're willing to pay? And this is listen, out of respect for Dino Mason, or Dino Tomlin. Yeah. Sorry, Mason's the other little kid, the little boy.
Not little anymore, but yeah.
No. Yeah, they're all. I think Mason actually is rapping. He's a rapper. So, and then
Mason is
his
a
daughters.
Mason Rudolph is a rapper now.
No. Jesus Christ.
Mason Tomlin.
Oh, that's right.
I wonder why Mike never liked Mason. Anyway, but the point is, there's deeper meaning than I was. And then his daughter's at Georgia. She's a gymnast. But yeah, if I'm Mike, I'm calling in some favors from the league and saying, can you get my kid a workout, will you? And
can you sign my kid as an undrafted free agent?
And if he is, he's being a great fucking dad, and I want to commend him for that, because Mike is a good man. He's a good dad. He's a really good head coach that's lost his fastball. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, listen. One thing we haven't talked
before
about.
we head over.
We haven't talked about tonight, and I'm going to make this point. It's a great thing to end the show with.
Okay,
Ben Roethlisberger this week talked about coming back, throwing his hat into the ring, quote unquote. How about bringing Ben in to mentor Mason? I'm just kidding, but not really.
Finally,
what about Ben coming back at 43 years old? Would he really be any worse than Aaron Rodgers? He would probably cost about 25% of Aaron Rodgers' demanded wage.
I love Big Ben, but no.
He was he did some interview. Was it McAfee? And he said he couldn't. I think it was McAfee asked him about it, and Roethlisberger was like, "No, I physically can't do it anymore." And Pat was like, "Is it your arm?" And he's like, "No, it's my lower body. Like my lower body just doesn't work anymore. Like my knees and like my hips are just shot. Like I can't do a 5-step drop anymore in enough time to get a ball out." Like,
he would literally have to be your typical shotgun, take the snap, throw guy.
Yeah. No, we'll just wait for his kid to be ready.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like halfway kidding, but I had to.
No,
put
I
it
know
out there because Ben did, and so it's one of those things you got to talk about.
Well,
he's got a helmet on, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I'm excited. I'm only 43."
It is interesting. He's making, he's obviously got his podcast, which is not nearly as entertaining as ours, and as Burner just said,
you know what,
there.
Burner.
See,
Burner. If Ben drank during his podcast, I bet it'd be really good.
I thought he does.
He has like little sips of the beer.
He has little sips.
Yeah.
But if he had some drinks, like I've had some drinks. If he had some drinks,
that would be entertaining.
That would be entertaining.
We have been anticipating all week long the arrival of Casey Kasem to this program tonight.
Really only for about 24 hours.
And it only got more exciting when Mason Rudolph came back to the Steelers. So I don't know what this long distance dedication is about to be. But I'm going to turn it over, as we are now almost 90 minutes in. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Casey Kasem.
I've revised this about 7 times this week. So
we figured.
This is Coast to Coast, American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was March 13th, 1973. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is back with us again this week, and he writes, "Dear Casey, just when you thought I was about to shut my garage door, hop into my Buick LeSabre, turn the engine on, and look for the light at the end of the Fort Pitt Tunnel after shutting my garage." That's a carbon monoxide joke. I felt a hand touch my shoulder. I opened my eyes, and what did I see? Not a white light, but a red blinking light. Could it be Casey? Could it be Rudolph asking me to guide his sleigh tonight? Negative, Casey. The red light turned out to be my smoke detector going off. My wife is the one who touched my shoulder, and it turned out I wasn't even in my car or in my garage. I was in this very basement, passed out in this very chair, with some Yinzer flavored incense burning. That's the last time I drink anything Aaron Rodgers hands to me. Casey, I'm sure you've heard by now that the Steelers re-signed Mason Rudolph and that there was some seismic activity in the North Hills of Pittsburgh because when I heard this news, I got so hard, I moved the tectonic plates so much, it made Pangea look like a tea party. Casey?
Wow.
Casey? You know those commercials that say call a doctor if you've had an erection lasting longer than 4 hours? Well, I've been calling my PCP every hour since 4 p.m. and still no response. Casey, I cannot walk through a door sideways. God damn it. I was feeling so good. The cats in the neighborhood won't leave me alone. They call it a scratching post. And my wife, well, we were only expecting one, but I'm sure she has in her now at least 3. Casey, you know the saying, if you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. Well, if you couldn't handle Mason Rudolph, Dion Cade, and Johnny Holton, then you don't deserve Mason Rudolph, DK Metcalf, and George Pickens. Mason is all business. He's a pro's pro. He's given this organization much more than it's given him, yet he's never played the victim. And now he's back. Casey, Daddy's home. Well, Ryan, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars and keep your radio tune right where it is. Up 1 spot to number 9 this week. Here's Jermaine Jackson of the Jackson 5 with Daddy's home.
Oh my God. Wow.
Fucking deep cut. I found that one.
That is a deep cut. Holy shit. Wow. Outstanding as always. 90 plus minutes of solid Steelers talk on the SCB Steelers podcast. Great night tonight. You guys in the chat were fantastic. And,
thanks everyone for joining us.
Yep. And for those that watch and listen on your own time, thank you so much as well. We love you guys. And again, please encourage folks to stop by. Subscribe, please. Do all those wonderful things, and we will be right back here next week. There is no off season for the SCB guys here. I'll tell you that much. Shit, we need this. This is like therapy for us.
It is like therapy for us,
right? What's the off season?
Right, off season.
That little period between the OTAs and like training camp.
That's like Jim Mora off season.
Was that like 5 weeks?
Right. Anyway,
by the way,
for these guys, this is Still Dead signing off. This has been the SCB Steelers podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
Fuck the Browns and all their quarterbacks.
Goddamn right.